GPS lost signal 30 miles back. Dr. Lena Torres gripped the steering wheel of her beaten Honda Civic, her knuckles white against the cracked leather. Rain hammered the windshield in sheets, turning the narrow mountain road into a slick ribbon of asphalt that seemed to twist endlessly into nothing. Her headlights carved weak tunnels through the downpour, illuminating twisted pines that leaned over the road like arthritic fingers. "You have reached your destination," her phone announced with false cheerfulness before the screen went black. Lena laughed, a bitter, exhausted sound. Destination, right. She'd left Chicago 16 hours ago, fleeing the wreckage of her career like a woman running from a burning building. Dr. Wang, Marcus Webb's face still haunted her, pale and slack on the operating table, his championship racehorse dying under her hands while cameras rolled. The malpractice suit, the headlines, the whispers in every veterinary hospital from Michigan Avenue to the Loop. Butcher, that's what they called her. Oakhaven, Oregon wasn't a fresh start. It was exile, a 3-month research position studying some obscure wildlife disease in a town so small it didn't appear on most maps. The grant money was good, suspiciously good, and the National Wildlife Federation had been desperately vague about details. "We're losing them," Dr. Patricia Chen had said over a static-filled phone call. "The entire gray wolf population, 12 dead in 6 weeks. We need someone who can work fast, work quietly, and doesn't mind isolation." Translation: someone with nothing left to lose. The road crested suddenly, and Oakhaven materialized through the rain like a mirage, or a trap. Main Street was a single strip of weathered storefronts. Anderson's General Store, the Timber and Tap Tavern, a post office that looked older than Oregon itself. Victorian houses clung to the hillsides, their windows dark despite the early evening hour. Mist rolled through the streets like something alive, curling around lampposts that cast sickly yellow light. Lena's skin prickled. The town felt wrong, too quiet, too still, like a held breath. She parked outside the only building with lights on, the sheriff's station, a squat brick structure with a single patrol car out front. The rain had softened to a drizzle, but the air carried a strange metallic taste that made her throat tighten. The door swung open before she could knock. "Dr. Torres." Not a question, a statement delivered in a voice like smoke and gravel. Lena's breath caught. Sheriff Kaelen stood backlit in the doorway, and for a moment she forgot why she'd come. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with broad shoulders that filled the frame and a presence that seemed to push the air out of the room. Dark hair fell to his collar, disheveled in a way that suggested he'd been running his hands through it. His face was all sharp angles, high cheekbones, a strong jaw shadowed with stubble, and eyes, God, those eyes. They were amber, bright and unsettling in the dim light, and they pinned her in place with an intensity that felt almost physical, like being seen under an X-ray. Like being hunted. Yes, how did you? Small town, we were told to expect you." His gaze traveled over her, methodical and assessing. She felt suddenly conscious of her rain-soaked jacket, her unwashed hair pulled into a messy bun, the coffee stains on her jeans from the drive. "You're late. The roads are dangerous after dark. You should have stopped in Salem." He stepped back, not quite an invitation. "Come in, we need to talk." Lena's hackles rose. She'd spent the last 6 months being lectured, interrogated, and judged. She didn't need it from some backwoods cop in a town with more trees than people. "Look, Sheriff, Kaelen. Sheriff Kaelen. I've been driving for 16 hours. I'm tired, I'm hungry, and I'd really like to get to my accommodations before I collapse." "The briefing can wait until morning." Something flickered in his expression, Amusement? Irritation? It was gone before she could identify it. The briefing can't wait. He moved back into the station, clearly expecting her to follow. And there are no accommodations. The cabin we arranged for you isn't habitable. Water damage from the storm last week. You'll be staying in the room above the clinic. What clinic? The veterinary clinic, where you'll be working. He gestured to a wall covered in maps, photographs, and what looked like a timeline written in aggressive slashes of red marker. This is everything we have on the die-off. Lena stepped closer, her exhaustion momentarily forgotten. The photographs showed wolves, beautiful gray wolves with thick coats and intelligent eyes, except their eyes were clouded, their bodies emaciated, and their mouths were frozen in silent howls. Necropsy reports were pinned beside each photo, but she noticed immediately that entire sections had been redacted with black marker. "Why are these censored?" she demanded, pointing. "Sensitive information." "I'm the investigator. I need to see everything." "No." Kaelen's tone brooked no argument. "You need to see what's relevant. The rest is town business." "Town business? These are wild animals. There's no such thing as, in Oakhaven there is." He moved closer, and suddenly the station felt very small. He smelled like pine and something else, something wild and clean that made her pulse quicken. "Dr. Torres, you need to understand something. These wolves aren't just wildlife. They're part of this town's ecosystem, its history, its identity. We don't take kindly to outsiders who don't respect that. I respect. You don't. Not yet." His amber eyes held hers, unblinking. "You're from the city. You see animals as specimens, problems to solve, cases to study. Here, they're family, and if you can't grasp that, you should leave now." Lena's temper flared. She'd driven across 4 states, abandoned her apartment, maxed out her credit card, all to escape judgment and accusation. She wouldn't tolerate it here. "I see animals as living beings who deserve competent care," she shot back, stepping into his space. "And I see a man who's more interested in control than cooperation. So how about this? Sheriff, you let me do my job and I'll solve your problem. Then we can both go back to pretending the other doesn't exist." Silence stretched between them, taut and dangerous. Kaelen's jaw tightened, a muscle jumping beneath his stubble. For a heartbeat, she thought he might actually throw her out. Then, impossibly, he smiled. It was a small thing, more a quirk of his lips than genuine amusement, but it transformed his face entirely. "You've got spine. Good. You'll need it." He turned back to the map, dismissing her anger as if it had never happened. "The clinic is 3 blocks north. Your supplies arrived yesterday. I'll have someone show you around tomorrow at dawn. I'm not a morning person. You are now. The wolves are most active at dawn." He pulled a key from his pocket and held it out. "Don't go into the woods alone. Don't approach any wolves without backup. Don't use silver." Kaelen froze. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Excuse me?" "I've been reviewing the preliminary reports. 3 different researchers mentioned being told not to bring silver into the field. Silverware, silver jewelry, even silver-based medical equipment." Lena frowned. "It's bizarre. What possible reason?" "It's a town ordinance." His voice had gone flat, dangerous. "Silver disturbs the wolves, makes them aggressive. That's not scientifically. It's not up for debate." He pressed the key into her palm, his fingers wrapping around hers for just a moment. His skin was fever hot, almost burning. "No silver. Do you understand?" Lena wanted to argue. Every instinct in her scientific mind rebelled against superstitious nonsense, but there was something in Kaelen's eyes, not anger, but fear, raw and immediate. "Fine," she said quietly. "No silver." He released her hand, stepping back so quickly she almost stumbled. Get some rest, Dr. Torres. Tomorrow I'll introduce you to the pack. The pack? But he was already ushering her toward the door, his hand hovering at the small of her back without quite touching. The gesture felt protective and possessive in equal measure, and Lena's body responded in ways her mind absolutely refused to acknowledge. She stepped out into the drizzle, clutching the key, and watched Kaelen retreat into the station without a backward glance. Through the window, she saw him brace both hands on the desk, his head bowed, his shoulders rigid with tension. A man carrying weight he couldn't share. What are you hiding? She wondered. The street lamps flickered, and somewhere in the distant mountains, a wolf howled. A sound so mournful, it made Lena's chest ache. Chapter 2. The Clinic. The veterinary clinic was a converted Victorian house with peeling blue paint and a sign that read, Oakhaven Animal Care, Dr. Margaret Walsh, DVM. The porch sagged, the windows were thick with grime, and Lena's optimism sagged with it. The key stuck in the lock. She had to shoulder the door open, stumbling into darkness that smelled of disinfectant, old wood, and something else, something animal and sharp. Her fingers found the light switch. Fluorescent tubes buzzed to life, revealing a reception area frozen somewhere in 1987. Fake wood paneling, linoleum floors, a desk with a rotary phone. Behind the desk, stairs led up to what she assumed were her new living quarters. The exam room was better. Modern equipment, clean steel tables, cabinets full of supplies. Someone had clearly invested money here, even if the cosmetic updates had been neglected. A folder sat on the main table with her name written in neat block letters. Lena flipped it open and immediately felt sick. More photographs, dozens of them. Wolves in various stages of decline, weight loss, lethargy, seizures. Detailed field notes documented behavioral changes, decreased pack cohesion, failure to hunt, abandonment of territory. Blood work showed impossible results, elevated white cell counts, organ inflammation, but no infectious agent, no virus, no bacteria, no parasite. It was as if the wolves were dying of phantom illness, but the last page made her pulse spike, a chart tracking the die-off against the lunar calendar. Every death, every single one, had occurred within 3 days of a full moon. That's not possible, Lena whispered. Not possible. Or not acceptable. She spun. Kaelen stood in the doorway, silent as smoke. How had she not heard him? You need to stop sneaking up on me, she snapped, heart hammering. I knocked. You didn't answer. He moved into the room with that same predatory grace, examining the folder over her shoulder. Too close. He was always too close. Found the pattern, I see. This doesn't make medical sense. Diseases don't follow lunar cycles. These wolves do. Why? Lena turned to face him, frustrated by his evasiveness. What's special about the full moon? Is it a behavioral trigger? Hormonal? Are they gathering somewhere specific and being exposed to a toxin? Kaelen's expression was unreadable. That's what you're here to determine. You know something. It wasn't a question. You're not telling me everything. No, he agreed quietly. I'm not. The honesty surprised her. Most people would have deflected, lied, gotten defensive. Kaelen simply held her gaze, unflinching, and let the truth sit between them like a live wire. If I'm going to help these animals, I need complete information. If I gave you complete information, you'd run. He reached past her to close the folder, his arm brushing hers. Heat radiated through the fabric of her jacket. And I need you to stay. Why? Because you're the first one who's looked at this as a medical problem instead of a supernatural curse. Lena blinked. What? The town Kaelen ran a hand through his hair, and for the first time, he looked uncertain, vulnerable. Oakhaven has beliefs, old beliefs. Most of the residents think the wolves are being punished, that something has made the forest angry. That's ridiculous. Is it? You've been here less than 2 hours, and you already feel it, don't you? That something's wrong with this place. He was right. God help her. He was right. The oppressive quiet, the way the shadows seemed too deep, the feeling of being watched from the tree line. Towns don't have feelings, Lena said firmly. They have environmental factors, geographic peculiarities, and occasionally shared delusions brought on by isolation and groupthink. Kalen's lips twitched. Spoken like a true scientist. It's what you hired me for. No. He stepped closer, and suddenly the air felt electric. I hired you because you're desperate enough to take a job no one else wants, and brilliant enough to actually solve it. You've been researching me. I've been protecting this town for 6 years, Dr. Torres. I research everyone who comes here. His amber eyes seemed to glow in the fluorescent light. I know about Chicago, about Marcus Webb, about the accusations. Shame burned through her. Then you know I'm a liability. I know you're a surgeon who tried to save an animal everyone else had given up on. I know you made a split-second decision under impossible circumstances, and I know you've been crucified for it. His voice dropped, intimate and rough. In Oakhaven, we don't punish people for trying. Lena's throat tightened. She couldn't remember the last time someone had defended her, believed her. Why do you care? She asked quietly. Kaelen looked away, jaw tight. Because I know what it's like to be blamed for things outside your control. Before she could respond, his radio crackled to life. Sheriff, we've got a situation. North Ridge, you need to come now. Kalen's entire demeanor shifted, from conflicted man to commanding officer in a heartbeat. What kind of situation? It's Marcus. He's found another body. Kaelen swore under his breath. I'm on my way. He turned to Lena. Stay here, lock the doors, don't go outside. What? No, if there's another dead wolf, I need to examine it. Not tonight. Sheriff, Kaelen. He grabbed her shoulders, and the contact sent electricity through her nervous system. Please, trust me on this. Tonight is not the night for you to see what's out there. The fear in his voice was real, visceral. Lena swallowed her protest. Tomorrow morning. First light. I want to see the site. Done. He released her, already moving toward the door. Lock up. I'll have Deputy Cole check on you in an hour. Then he was gone, leaving Lena alone in the too-bright clinic with questions piling up like storm clouds. She climbed the stairs to her new apartment, a converted attic with a sloped ceiling, a narrow bed, and a window that overlooked Main Street. From here, she could see the sheriff's station, watch Kaelen burst out and climb into his patrol car, driving toward the mountains at dangerous speed. Lena pressed her palm against the cold glass. What are you? She wondered, not for the first time. The full moon was 4 days away, and something told her that whatever secrets Oakhaven was hiding, they would reveal themselves whether she was ready or not. Part 2. Investigation, minutes 26 to Kata 60. Chapter 3. The body dawn came wrapped in fog so thick Lena could barely see across Main Street. She'd barely slept. Every sound had jerked her awake. The creak of settling wood, the wind rattling windows, and once, unmistakably, the sound of something large moving past the clinic. Footsteps, or paw steps. She wasn't sure which possibility disturbed her more. Kaelen arrived at 5:47 a.m. in his patrol car, looking like he hadn't slept at all. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. His uniform was wrinkled, and his jaw was set with grim determination. He didn't speak as she climbed into the passenger seat, just handed her a thermos of coffee and drove. "Thank you," Lena said, surprised by the gesture. He grunted, an acknowledgement that wasn't quite words. They drove north, out of town and into the forest. The road dissolved into a dirt track, then disappeared entirely. Kaelen navigated by instinct, the SUV lurching over roots and rocks. Lena gripped the door handle, fighting nausea. "How did your deputy find the body?" she asked, desperate for distraction. "Marcus isn't a deputy, he's—" Kaelen paused. "A concerned citizen. A concerned citizen who patrols the woods at night? Marcus has insomnia. He walks." The lie was obvious, but Lena let it slide. They were climbing now, the path so steep she could feel gravity pulling her back into the seat. Through the windshield, massive Douglas firs rose like cathedral columns, their branches creating a canopy so dense that twilight persisted even at dawn. Then Kaelen stopped. "From here, we walk." They hiked for 20 minutes in silence, following a trail only Kaelen could see. Lena's breath came in gasps. She was city-soft, unaccustomed to altitude and exertion. Kaelen moved like liquid, never breaking stride, occasionally glancing back to ensure she kept pace. Finally, they emerged into a clearing. 3 men waited, 2 in their 50s with weathered faces and hunter's eyes, and 1 younger, maybe 30, with nervous energy and tattoos crawling up his neck. "Marcus," Lena guessed. "Sheriff." The older man nodded. "We haven't touched anything." "Good. Dr. Torres. Meet Thomas Anderson, Henry Walsh, and Marcus Cole." Kaelen gestured to each in turn. "Gentlemen, this is our wildlife veterinarian." The men's expressions ranged from skeptical, Thomas, to openly hostile, Henry. Marcus just looked scared. "She's the city vet?" Henry demanded. "You brought a woman out here?" "I brought a doctor," Kaelen said coldly. "Show some respect, Henry, or get off my mountain." The threat hung in the air. Henry backed down, but his eyes never left Lena, calculating, suspicious. "Where's the body?" Lena asked, refusing to be intimidated. Marcus pointed deeper into the clearing. "Over there, past the stones." The stones were a circle of river rocks, arranged in a pattern that looked deliberate, ancient. Some bore carvings, symbols Lena didn't recognize. Inside the circle lay the wolf. Lena's medical detachment crumbled. It was massive, easily 150 pounds, with fur the color of smoke and ash. Even dead, it was magnificent. But the condition of the body made her stomach turn. Emaciation so severe that ribs showed through the skin, eyes clouded white, mouth open in a final, soundless scream, and around its neck, barely visible beneath matted fur, was a wound. "It's fresh," Lena murmured, kneeling beside the animal. "No more than 12 hours. 8, Kaelen said quietly. "Marcus found it around 10 p.m. Lena pulled on latex gloves, examining the wound more closely. It was a burn, circular, about 2 inches in diameter, and deep enough to have damaged underlying tissue. The flesh around it was necrotic, black and weeping. "What could cause this?" she asked. Silence. Lena looked up. All 4 men were staring at the wound with expressions ranging from horror to fury. Kaelen's face had gone completely blank, the blankness of a man forcing emotion into submission. "Silver," Henry spat. "Someone used silver." "That's impossible," Lena said automatically. "Silver doesn't burn tissue like this. Even pure silver wouldn't—" "Tell that to the wound," Marcus interrupted. His hands were shaking. "Someone killed him, Sheriff. This wasn't the disease. This was murder." "We don't know that." Kaelen's voice was carefully controlled. "Dr. Torres, can you perform a necropsy here?" "In the field? Without proper equipment?" I need to know cause of death, now. There was something desperate in his request. Lena nodded slowly. I'll need my kit from the car. Thomas, go with her. Kaelen didn't look away from the body. Don't let her out of your sight. The walk back to the SUV was tense. Thomas Anderson moved like a man half his age, rifle slung across his back, eyes constantly scanning the tree line. You think something's out here? Lena asked. Something's always out here, Thomas replied. Question is whether it's hunting. The wolves are sick. They're not dangerous. Thomas laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. You really believe that? Why wouldn't I? Because, Doc, you're thinking like a vet. You need to think like prey. He stopped, turning to face her fully. There are things in these mountains that don't make sense, things that don't follow rules. The sheriff knows it. That's why he doesn't want you alone. Are you trying to scare me? I'm trying to keep you alive. Thomas resumed walking. The wolves aren't the only things dying in Oakhaven. Before Lena could respond, a howl split the air, so close it raised goosebumps across her skin. Thomas's hand went to his rifle. That's not one of the sick ones, he murmured. How can you tell? Sick wolves don't hunt. That one's hunting. They ran the rest of the way to the SUV. Chapter 4, Autopsy. The necropsy took 3 hours and confirmed nothing except that medicine didn't explain what was happening. The wolf, an adult male, approximately 6 years old, had died of cardiac arrest. But the damage was systemic: organ inflammation, neurological degradation, immune system collapse. It wasn't disease. It was like the animal's body had simply given up. The silver burn was post-mortem, applied after death. Why would someone burn a dead wolf? Lena asked, frustrated. Kaelen paced at the edge of the clearing, agitated. He'd been like that all morning, wound tight, barely containing whatever emotion raged beneath the surface. The other men had left an hour ago, but Kaelen refused to leave her alone. To send a message, he said finally. To who? To me. Lena straightened, stripping off her bloody gloves. You're going to need to explain that. There are factions in Oakhaven. Kaelen ran both hands through his hair, a gesture of pure frustration. People who believe the wolves are sacred, people who believe they're cursed, people who want them protected at all costs, and people who want them exterminated. That's not unusual for a rural area. It's not about conservation, Dr. Torres. It's about control. He finally met her eyes, and the intensity there stole her breath. The wolves are the heart of this town, literally. When they're strong, we thrive. When they're sick, he gestured helplessly, everything falls apart. That's a metaphor, is it? The way he said it, like a confession, sent chills down her spine. What aren't you telling me? Lena demanded. What's the real connection between this town and these wolves? Kaelen looked at her for a long moment, and she saw him weighing options. Trust or deflection? Truth or safety? He chose deflection. I'll tell you when I'm sure you can handle it. He pulled a tarp from his pack, covering the body. We'll transport him to the clinic. I want you to run every test you can think of. Toxicology, genetics, everything. Find me a medical explanation for this. And if there isn't one, then we're all in trouble. They loaded the body into the SUV in silence. As Kaelen started the engine, Lena noticed his hands trembling. Are you all right? She asked quietly. No. The honesty surprised her. No, I'm not, but I will be, after tonight. Why? What's tonight? Nothing that concerns you. But his eyes flicked to the calendar on the dashboard, and Lena's stomach dropped. 3 days until the full moon. Chapter 5, The Tavern. Lena spent the afternoon running tests and getting nowhere. The wolf's DNA was clean, no mutations, no abnormalities. Toxicology showed nothing. Under the microscope, the cells looked healthy. Dead, but healthy. It made no sense. By 6 p.m., her eyes burned and her head throbbed. She needed food, fresh air, and preferably a stiff drink. The timber and tap beckoned. The tavern was exactly what she expected. Dark wood, taxidermy on the walls, the smell of old beer and older secrets. A dozen people looked up when she entered, and conversation stuttered to silence. "Don't mind them," a voice called from behind the bar. "They're not used to new faces." The bartender was a woman in her 60s with iron gray hair, tattoos, and the kind of smile that suggested she'd seen everything twice. "I'm Ruth. You must be the vet." "Lena Torres." She slid onto a bar stool. "Whatever's on draft and a burger if your kitchen's open." "Always open for those who need feeding." Ruth pulled a pint with practiced ease. "How's the work coming?" "Slowly." Lena took a long drink, savoring the cold bite. Turns out mystery illnesses are mysterious. That why the sheriff's so wound up. Saw him driving past earlier looking like death warmed over. "He's worried about the wolves." "He's worried about more than that," Ruth said knowingly. "But then, Kaelen's always got the weight of the world on those shoulders." She leaned in conspiratorially. "Between you and me, Doc, he needs someone to tell him he doesn't have to carry it alone." Lena felt heat creep up her neck. "I'm just here to do a job." "Uh-huh, and I'm just here to pour drinks." Ruth winked. "Word of advice? Don't let him push you away. That man's been alone too long." Before Lena could respond, the door crashed open. A man stumbled in, mid-40s, flannel shirt, wild eyes. Blood streaked his face from a gash across his forehead. "Ruth, where's Kaelen?" He grabbed the bar, gasping. "They're fighting again, up at the North Ridge. I tried to stop them, but—" "Slow down, Pete." Ruth was already reaching for the phone. "Who's fighting?" "The Packs. Grayson and Marcus's people. There's gonna be bloodshed, Ruth. You gotta get the sheriff up there. Now." Lena was on her feet. "Someone call 911? "No cops," Pete said sharply. "Just Kaelen. He's the only one who can stop this." Ruth made the call while Lena grabbed the first aid kit from behind the bar. Pete tried to wave her off, but she ignored him, cleaning the wound with efficient movements. "Head wounds bleed like crazy, but it's superficial," she assured him. "You'll be fine. What's happening on the ridge?" Pete's eyes darted to the other patrons, all watching in tense silence. "Pack business? I don't know what that means." "Good," he said fervently. "Keep it that way." The door burst open again. This time it was Kaelen, moving so fast he seemed to blur. His uniform was disheveled, dirt on his pants, and his eyes, God, his eyes were glowing. Actually glowing, like an animal's caught in headlights. "Pete?" Kalen's voice was rough, barely human. "Where?" "North Ridge." Grayson challenged Marcus over territory rights. "It's escalating." Kaelen swore viciously. He turned to leave, then noticed Lena. Their eyes met, and something passed between them, recognition, warning, fear. "Don't follow me," he said. Then he was gone, the door slamming behind him with enough force to rattle the windows. Lena looked at Ruth. "What the hell is going on?" "Nothing you want to be part of, honey." Ruth pulled her own coat on. "But I'm guessing you're not going to listen to that advice." "I'm the wildlife veterinarian. If there's violence involving animals—" "These aren't animals," Pete interrupted. Then, at Ruth's sharp look, he backtracked. "I mean, they're not just animals. It's complicated." Then uncomplicated. The silence stretched. Finally, Ruth sighed. 3 nights from now is the full moon. That's when the pack runs together, all of them. It's the one time the barriers are thinnest, the one time the town remembers what it really is. She met Lena's eyes squarely. You want to understand what's killing the wolves? You need to understand that in Oakhaven, the line between man and beast isn't as clear as you think. Lena's scientific mind rebelled. That's not possible. Tell that to your gut, Ruth said softly, because I think you already know. And God help her, she did. The pieces were all there. The timing of the deaths, Kaelen's protectiveness, the ban on silver, the way he moved, the way his eyes glowed. Lycanthropy doesn't exist, Lena said out loud. It's folklore, a myth used to explain medical conditions like hypertrichosis or porphyria. Maybe where you're from, Pete said. Not here. Lena's hands shook. She gripped the bar to steady herself. If what you're implying is true, if Kaelen is some kind of... She couldn't even say it. Then the disease isn't affecting wolves. It's affecting people. Ruth nodded slowly. Now you're getting it. But that means horror washed through her. That means I need to treat them as humans. Different physiology, different immune systems, different everything. She stood abruptly. I need to get back to the clinic. I need to rerun all the tests with human baselines. You need to be careful, Ruth interrupted. Not everyone in town wants this solved, Doc. Some folks think the sickness is cleansing us, getting rid of the old ways. If they find out you know the truth, are you saying I'm in danger? I'm saying you're exactly the kind of person who doesn't back down from danger, and that's gonna get you killed. Lena squared her shoulders. Then I'll just have to not get killed. She left the tavern at a run, her mind racing faster than her feet. Werewolves. I'm treating werewolves. It should have been impossible, insane. But every instinct she had, medical and otherwise, was screaming that it was true, which meant Kaelen wasn't just protecting the wolves, he was the wolves, and he was running out of time. Part 3, Revelation, minutes 61:95. Chapter 6, The Confrontation. The clinic lights were on when Lena arrived, breathless and wild with adrenaline. She hadn't left them on. Lena paused at the door, her hand hovering over the knob. Every horror movie she'd ever seen screamed at her to run. But if someone was in her lab, tampering with evidence, she pushed inside. Papers were scattered across the floor. Cabinets hung open. Her carefully organized samples had been trashed. Vials smashed, slides destroyed, blood work contaminated with bleach. No, no, no. Lena fell to her knees, trying to salvage anything. Months of work, gone. The necropsy data, obliterated. Looking for this? Lena spun. Henry Walsh stood in the doorway to the back room, holding her laptop, the one with all her digital files. Give that back. Can't do that, Doc. Henry's smile was cruel. See, you've been asking the wrong questions, poking your nose where it doesn't belong. That's dangerous. I'm trying to help. You're trying to expose us. He set the laptop down, pulling something from his jacket. A knife, silver from the way it gleamed in the fluorescent light. Can't let that happen. Lena's mouth went dry. The town hired me. Kaelen hired you, against council advice. Some of us think the alpha's getting too attached to humans, forgetting what he really is. Henry advanced slowly. You're a liability, and liabilities get eliminated. You killed that wolf? Lena realized. You burned it with silver. Had to show Kaelen what happens when he gets soft, when he starts caring more about protecting outsiders than protecting the pack. Henry lunged. Lena dove sideways, crashing into the exam table. Her hand closed around a scalpel, and she came up swinging. The blade sliced across Henry's forearm, a shallow cut, but enough to make him roar. Bitch! She ran, out of the clinic, into the street, her lungs burning. Behind her, Henry's footsteps pounded against pavement, too fast, impossibly fast. The air filled with a sound that was half snarl, half scream. Lena risked a glance back. Henry was changing. His spine arched, bones cracking and reforming. Fur rippled across his skin like oil spreading over water. His face elongated, jaw unhinging to accommodate teeth that were suddenly 3 inches long. Oh God, it's real. She put on a burst of speed she didn't know she possessed, cutting through the alley beside Anderson's general store. The transformation was complete now. She could hear the 4-legged gait, claws scraping against asphalt, the wet sound of panting that was far too close. A massive shape hurtled past her, cutting off her escape. The wolf was huge, bigger than any natural animal. With silver-streaked fur and Henry's malevolent intelligence burning in its yellow eyes, it crouched, haunches coiling, preparing to spring. Lena grabbed the only weapon available, a trash can lid. "Stay back!" The wolf's lips peeled back in what might have been a laugh. Then another shape exploded from the shadows, black as midnight, twice Henry's size, moving with lethal grace. It slammed into Henry mid-leap, and the two wolves collided in a tangle of fur and fury. Kaelen, even in wolf form, Lena recognized him. The amber eyes, the protective rage, the way he positioned himself between her and danger. He was magnificent and terrifying. Henry recovered quickly, circling. The two wolves moved like dancers, testing, feinting. Then Henry lunged for Kaelen's throat. The fight was savage. They rolled across the pavement, a blur of snapping jaws and raking claws. Blood sprayed. Kaelen got his teeth around Henry's shoulder and threw him, into the side of a building hard enough to crack brick. Henry scrambled up, limping. He snarled something that sounded almost like words, then turned and fled into the darkness. Kaelen started to pursue, then stopped. Slowly, painfully, he turned back to Lena. Their eyes met. In that moment, Lena saw everything, the man beneath the beast, the burden he carried, the fear that she would run screaming, that she would reject him for what he was. "Kaelen," she whispered. The wolf's ears flicked forward. Then he was moving, not toward her, but away, disappearing into the night before she could say anything else. Lena stood alone in the alley, shaking so hard her teeth chattered. Around her, lights were coming on in windows. Curtains twitched. The town was watching. She'd just seen the impossible. And somehow, impossibly, she wasn't afraid. Chapter 7. The truth. Lena waited in the sheriff's station, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders and Ruth's strong coffee warming her hands. Deputy Marcus Cole hovered anxiously, his neck tattoos standing out against pale skin. "He'll come," Marcus assured her for the 3rd time. "The Alpha always comes." "Stop calling him that," Lena said tiredly. "He has a name. He has a title. There's a difference." Marcus paced. "Doc, what you saw tonight, you can't tell anyone. Not the feds, not the university, I'm not going to expose him." Marcus stopped. "Why not? You're a scientist. This is the discovery of the century. You could be famous. I could also get people killed." Lena set down the mug. "If the world found out about Oakhaven, what do you think would happen? Researchers would descend. Military, government agencies. They'd dissect this town trying to understand it. Is that what you want?" "No," a voice said from the doorway. "It's not." Kaelen stood backlit by street lamps, human again, wearing jeans and an unbuttoned flannel that revealed the scratches across his chest. They were already healing. She could see the skin knitting together in real time. Marcus took one look at Kaelen's face and made himself scarce. The silence stretched between them, heavy with everything unsaid. Finally, Kaelen moved into the station, each step deliberate, like he was approaching a spooked animal. "Are you hurt?" His voice was rough, strained. "No. You got there in time." Lena stood, letting the blanket fall. "Are you hurt?" "I heal fast." "I noticed." She gestured to his chest. "Those should need stitches. They'll be gone by morning." He stopped a few feet away, maintaining distance. "Lena, Don't." She held up a hand. "Don't apologize. Don't explain. Just tell me the truth. All of it." Kalen's jaw tightened. Then, slowly, he nodded. "Okay, but you should sit down." "I've been sitting. I want to stand for this." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Stubborn. You have no idea." He moved to the window, staring out at the empty street. When he spoke, his voice was low, almost hypnotic. Oakhaven was found. The Surgeon and the Silent Sheriff continued. Part 3, Revelation continued. Chapter 6, The Confrontation continued. Out of the clinic, into the street, her lungs burning. Behind her, Henry's footsteps pounded against pavement. Too fast, impossibly fast. The air filled with a sound that was half snarl, half scream. Lena risked a glance back. Henry was changing. His spine arched, bones cracking and reforming. Fur rippled across his skin like oil spreading over water. His face elongated, jaw unhinging to accommodate teeth that were suddenly 3 inches long. Oh God, it's real. She put on a burst of speed she didn't know she possessed, cutting through the alley beside Anderson's general store. The transformation was complete now. She could hear the 4-legged gait, claws scraping against asphalt, the wet sound of panting that was far too close. A massive shape hurtled past her, cutting off her escape. The wolf was huge, bigger than any natural animal, with silver-streaked fur and Henry's malevolent intelligence burning in its yellow eyes. It crouched, haunches coiling, preparing to spring. Lena grabbed the only weapon available, a trash can lid. "Stay back!" The wolf's lips peeled back in what might have been a laugh. Then another shape exploded from the shadows, black as midnight, twice Henry's size, moving with lethal grace. It slammed into Henry mid-leap, and the two wolves collided in a tangle of fur and fury. Kaelen, even in wolf form, Lena recognized him. The amber eyes, the protective rage, the way he positioned himself between her and danger. He was magnificent and terrifying. Henry recovered quickly, circling. The two wolves moved like dancers, testing, feinting. Then Henry lunged for Kalen's throat. The fight was savage. They rolled across the pavement, a blur of snapping jaws and raking claws. Blood sprayed. Kaelen got his teeth around Henry's shoulder and threw him, into the side of a building hard enough to crack brick. Henry scrambled up, limping. He snarled something that sounded almost like words, then turned and fled into the darkness. Kaelen started to pursue, then stopped. Slowly, painfully, he turned back to Lena. Their eyes met. In that moment, Lena saw everything. The man beneath the beast, the burden he carried, the fear that she would run screaming. That she would reject him for what he was. "Kaelen," she whispered. The wolf's ears flicked forward. Then he was moving, not toward her, but away, disappearing into the night before she could say anything else. Lena stood alone in the alley, shaking so hard her teeth chattered. Around her, lights were coming on in windows. Curtains twitched. The town was watching. She'd just seen the impossible, and somehow, impossibly, she wasn't afraid. Chapter 7, The Truth. Lena waited in the sheriff's station, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders, and Ruth's strong coffee warming her hands. Deputy Marcus Cole hovered anxiously, his neck tattoos standing out against pale skin. "He'll come." Marcus assured her for the third time. The alpha always comes. Stop calling him that, Lena said tiredly. He has a name. He has a title. There's a difference. Marcus paced. Doc, what you saw tonight, you can't tell anyone. Not the feds, not the university, not. I'm not going to expose him. Marcus stopped. Why not? You're a scientist. This is the discovery of the century. You could be famous. I could also get people killed. Lena set down the mug. If the world found out about Oakhaven, what do you think would happen? Researchers would descend, military, government agencies. They'd dissect this town trying to understand it. Is that what you want? No, a voice said from the doorway. It's not. Kaelen stood backlit by street lamps, human again, wearing jeans and an unbuttoned flannel that revealed the scratches across his chest. They were already healing. She could see the skin knitting together in real time. Marcus took one look at Kaelen's face and made himself scarce. The silence stretched between them, heavy with everything unsaid. Finally, Kaelen moved into the station, each step deliberate, like he was approaching a spooked animal. Are you hurt? His voice was rough, strained. No, you got there in time. Lena stood, letting the blanket fall. Are you hurt? I heal fast. I noticed. She gestured to his chest. Those should need stitches. They'll be gone by morning. He stopped a few feet away, maintaining distance. Lena, Don't. She held up a hand. Don't apologize. Don't explain. Just tell me the truth. All of it. Kaelen's jaw tightened. Then slowly, he nodded. Okay, but you should sit down. I've been sitting. I want to stand for this. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Stubborn. You have no idea. He moved to the window, staring out at the empty street. When he spoke, his voice was low, almost hypnotic. Oakhaven was founded in 1873 by settlers who weren't entirely human, lycanthropes fleeing persecution in the old country. They found this valley, isolated, defensible, with deep forests and abundant game, and they built a sanctuary, a place where they could live as both man and wolf without fear. How many? Lena asked quietly. At the founding, maybe 60. Now? He glanced back at her. 347. Every person in this town carries the gene. Some are dormant. They never shift, live completely human lives. Others, like me? He turned fully, meeting her eyes. We run with the moon. And you're the alpha. I'm the sheriff, the protector, the one who enforces the codes that keep us hidden. His expression was grim. It's not a job anyone wants, but someone has to do it. How old are you? 34. I was born here, raised to lead. He laughed, a bitter sound. My father was alpha before me. He was good at it, commanding, fearless. I'm just trying not to get everyone killed. The vulnerability in that admission cracked something open in Lena's chest. You're doing better than you think. Am I? 13 wolves dead, the pack fracturing, council members like Henry trying to start a civil war, and now you? He cut himself off. And now me what? You're human, completely, entirely human. You can't heal from a silver wound. You can't fight off a rogue wolf. If Henry had caught you, his hands clenched into fists. I can't protect you and lead the pack. And I can't abandon either. I'm not asking you to abandon anyone, Lena said firmly. She crossed to him, closing the distance he'd carefully maintained. I'm asking you to let me help. I'm a doctor, Kaelen. This is what I do. The disease isn't a disease. It's genetic breakdown, isn't it? The pieces were clicking together rapidly now. That's why it follows the lunar cycle. That's why there's no pathogen. The transformation, It requires enormous cellular energy. If something's interfering with the werewolf genes, the shift becomes traumatic, fatal. Kaelen stared at her. How did you? I'm a good doctor when people actually tell me the truth. She poked his chest, right over his heart. I need samples, blood, tissue, saliva, from sick wolves and healthy ones. I need to see the transformation, medically documented. And I need access to your family histories to track genetic patterns. The pack won't. The pack is dying. You said it yourself. 13 dead. How many more before you lose them all? She softened her voice. I know I'm an outsider. I know you have every reason not to trust me. But Kaelen, I took an oath. I don't abandon patients, no matter what species they are. He searched her face, and she let him see everything. Her determination, her fear, her strange, impossible attraction to a man who could become a wolf. You should run, he said hoarsely. Get in your car and drive back to Chicago and pretend you never came here. Is that what you want? No. The word was torn from him. God help me, no. The air between them crackled. Lena was acutely aware of how close they stood, how his chest rose and fell with rapid breaths, how his eyes had darkened to molten gold. Then stop trying to push me away, she whispered. Kaelen made a sound low in his throat, half growl, half groan. Lena, you don't understand what you're asking. The pack is territorial, possessive. If we what? If I claim you, they'll see you as pack, mine to protect, mine to... He trailed off, jaw clenched. Yours? Yes. His hand came up, hovering near her face without quite touching. And I've wanted to since the moment you walked into this station with coffee stains on your jeans and fire in your eyes, telling me not to underestimate you. Lena's breath caught. That was less than 48 hours ago. For wolves, recognition is instant. We know our mates. He stopped, eyes widening as if he'd revealed too much. Mates, Lena repeated slowly. You think I'm your mate? I think you're the most brilliant, frustrating, fearless woman I've ever met, and the wolf in me wants to drag you somewhere safe and never let you go. Which is insane, because we barely know each other, and you deserve better than a man who's half monster. You're not a monster. Lena reached up, cupping his face. His skin was fever-hot beneath her palm, stubble rough against her fingers. You're a man doing an impossible job with impossible burdens, and maybe I'm crazy, but I want to help carry them. Why? The question was anguished. Because I've spent 6 months being told I'm worthless, a butcher, a failure, and you looked at me and saw a surgeon. Her voice cracked. You believed in me when no one else did. Lena! She kissed him. It was meant to be gentle. A soft press of lips, a promise of possibility. But the moment their mouths met, something ignited. Kaelen's control shattered. His arms came around her, crushing her against his chest, and he kissed her like a man starving. Lena made a sound of surprise that became encouragement. Her fingers tangled in his hair, and she rose on her toes to meet him, giving as good as she got. He tasted like mint and danger and wild places, and she couldn't get enough. Kaelen broke away first, breathing hard. We can't. The timing? The full moon is tomorrow night, Lena finished. I know, which means we have work to do. He stared at her, then laughed. A real laugh, bright with disbelief and reluctant hope. You're insane. Probably, but I'm your insane doctor, apparently. She straightened his collar, fingers lingering. So, show me your wolves, Alpha. Let me save them. Kaelen caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. If you can pull this off, I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to deserve you. Deal. Lena smiled, fierce and determined. But first, we solve a mystery. Chapter 8. The pack dawn broke gray and cold over Oakhaven. Lena stood in the clearing where they'd found the first body, surrounded by wolves. Not wolves, were wolves in human form. 37 of them had come when Kaelen called. The pack's healthy members, ranging from teenagers to elders. They watched Lena with expressions spanning curiosity, suspicion, and outright hostility. She felt like a rabbit in a den of foxes. "This is Dr. Lena Torres," Kaelen announced, his voice carrying authority. "She's here under my protection, investigating the sickness. She knows what we are, and before you ask, yes, I trust her." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. A woman stepped forward, late 50s, silver-streaked auburn hair, carrying herself with unmistakable command. "You trust her, or the wolf wants her?" the woman asked pointedly. Kalen's jaw tightened. "Both, Maggie." Maggie's eyes cut to Lena, assessing. "She's unmated, human, young. Not quite an accusation. This is your mate claim?" "This is my choice." The crowd erupted. Voices rose in argument, some supportive, many not. Lena caught fragments. "Can't bond with a human? Against tradition. What if she betrays us? Enough!" Kalen's command cracked like a whip. The pack fell silent. 13 of our people are dead. More are sick. I don't care about tradition right now. I care about survival. Dr. Torres has a theory. You're going to listen. All eyes turned to Lena. Her palms were sweating, but she'd given presentations to auditoriums full of judgmental surgeons. She could handle this. "I believe you're experiencing genetic degradation," she said clearly. "Specifically, damage to the sequences that govern transformation. Think of it like a software bug. The code that tells your cells how to shift from human to wolf and back is corrupted. Each transformation tears you down a little more until your body can't handle the strain." A young man raised his hand, barely 20, with Marcus's nervous energy. "But the disease is new. We've been shifting for generations," which suggests an environmental trigger, something you're being exposed to that's causing mutations. Lena pulled out her tablet, displaying charts. "I need to test for heavy metals, radiation, chemical pollutants. I need complete medical histories, and I need tissue samples from both healthy and sick pack members." "What kind of samples?" Maggie asked warily. "Blood, mostly. Saliva. A few cells scraped from inside your cheek." Lena met her eyes steadily. "I won't hurt anyone, and everything stays confidential." "And if you can't cure it?" Henry's voice came from the back of the crowd. He emerged, bandaged and glowering. "What then?" Kaelen moved to intercept him, but Lena held up a hand. "If I can't cure it, I'll find someone who can," she said. "There are geneticists, immunologists, specialists around the world." Discreetly, carefully. "So you'll expose us," Henry sneered. "Bring in outsiders." "I'll save lives," Lena's voice hardened. "That's what doctors do, even when it's inconvenient." "Convenient or not, you're a liability. Touch her again, Henry, and I'll kill you myself." Kalen's words were soft, but they stopped Henry cold. "That's not a threat. It's pack law. She's under my protection. Challenge her, you challenge me." Henry looked like he wanted to argue, but after a long moment he backed down. "This isn't over." "Yeah, it is." Marcus stepped forward, surprisingly bold. "Doc's right. We're dying. I don't care if she's human. If she can help, I'm in." He rolled up his sleeve. "Take whatever samples you need." One by one, others followed. Not all. Some melted back into the trees, unwilling to trust. But enough. Maggie, Thomas, even Pete from the tavern. For 3 hours, Lena worked, drawing blood, taking histories, documenting symptoms. Kaelen stayed at her side, a silent, protective presence. She could feel the pack watching him watch her, reading significance in every glance, every accidental touch. He really does think I'm his mate, she realized. And they know it. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, it felt like a key turning in a lock she hadn't known existed. By noon, Lena had 53 samples and a working hypothesis. The common factor is the North Ridge, she told Kaelen as they packed up. Every sick wolf either lives near it or hunts there regularly. There's something in that area. Contamination, probably chemical. I need to survey the site. The ridge is dangerous. There are old mines up there, abandoned since the 40s. Unstable ground. Then we'll be careful. Lena, I'm going, Kaelen, with or without you. She touched his arm. But I'd really prefer with. He looked at her, really looked, like he could see straight through to her soul. Then he sighed. You're going to be the death of me. Not if I can help it. They left immediately, hiking through increasingly treacherous terrain. The North Ridge was aptly named, a steep escarpment of volcanic rock that dropped away to a river valley far below. Ancient pines clung to impossible angles, their roots exposed like grasping fingers. And everywhere, there were mine shafts. They'd been sealed decades ago. Grates rusted across the openings, warning signs faded to illegibility. But Lena could smell it, the sharp, acrid scent of chemicals leaching from the rock. These mines, she said slowly, what were they mining? Silver, of course. And the runoff? Drains into the water table. Kalen's face was grim. We stopped drinking from the northern wells 20 years ago. But the wolves... He trailed off, understanding dawning. They hunt here, drink from the streams, and ingest silver particles in microscopic amounts. Lena knelt by a stream, dipping a vial into the water. Even without testing, she could see the faint iridescence on the surface. Silver poisoning. It's gradual, cumulative. Your healing factor probably masks the symptoms until the damage reaches critical mass. Then the full moon hits, Kaelen said quietly, and the transformation becomes toxic. Exactly. Lena stood, a vial in each hand. This is it. This is what's killing you. A sound echoed across the ridge, half human, half animal, filled with rage. Kalen's head snapped up. Run! What? Run! They burst from cover as wolves poured out of the trees. Not the majestic creatures Lena had seen in photographs. These were twisted things, their fur patchy, eyes wild with sickness and fury. Leading them was Henry, fully transformed, foam flecking his muzzle. Henry's turned them, Kaelen snarled. Convince them you're the cause, not the cure. That's insane. They're sick, dying. They're not thinking straight. He pushed her toward the path. Go, get to town. I'll hold them off. I'm not leaving you. Lena, I'm the alpha. This is my job. He was already changing, bones cracking, fur rippling. Go! Lena ran. Behind her, the sounds of battle erupted. Snarls, howls, the meaty impact of bodies colliding. She didn't look back, couldn't afford to, just focused on the path, on keeping her feet under her, on not dropping the precious samples. The vials. She had to get the vials to the clinic, had to prove her theory. The path narrowed, became treacherous. Lena's foot slipped on loose shale, and suddenly she was sliding, tumbling, branches whipping her face. She hit something hard and lay gasping, pain radiating from her ribs. A wolf appeared above her. Not Henry, but the young man from this morning. His eyes were clouded with silver poisoning, and he didn't recognize her. He lunged. Lena threw up her hands instinctively. The wolf's jaws closed around her forearm, and she screamed as teeth punctured flesh. But even through the pain, her doctor's mind registered something crucial. The bite wasn't deep. The wolf was weak, disoriented, dying. "I can help you," she gasped. "Please, I can help." The wolf released her, stumbling back. For a moment, human intelligence flickered in those clouded eyes. Then he collapsed, convulsing. Lena crawled to him, ignoring her bleeding arm. She felt for a pulse, rapid, thready. His breathing was labored. "Hold on," she whispered, ripping her sleeve to make a tourniquet for her own wound. "Just hold on." A shadow fell across them. Lena looked up into Henry's transformed face and knew she was going to die. Part 4, Climax, minutes 96-120. Chapter 9, Silver and Blood. Henry's claws extended, each one the length of Lena's finger. Saliva dripped from his bared fangs. He circled slowly, savoring her fear. "You don't have to do this," Lena said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I found the source. I can prove it's not—" Henry lunged, and Kaelen caught him midair. They tumbled in a tangle of fur and fury. Rolling dangerously close to the cliff's edge, Kaelen was larger, stronger, but Henry fought with the desperation of the dying. His claws raked across Kaelen's shoulder, drawing blood that steamed in the cold air. Lena scrambled backward, cradling her injured arm. The young wolf beside her had stopped convulsing, but his breathing was shallow. Without treatment, he'd be dead within hours. "I can't help him here. Need the clinic. Need equipment." Kaelen slammed Henry against a tree trunk hard enough to crack the bark. For a moment, Henry went limp. Then, with a speed that shouldn't have been possible, he twisted free and dove for something glinting in the dirt. The silver knife. "Kaelen!" Lena screamed. Kaelen turned, but too slow. Henry drove the blade into his side, just below the ribs. The effect was immediate and devastating. Kaelen's legs buckled. He shifted back to human form involuntarily, smoke rising from the wound as silver burned through supernatural flesh. Henry shifted too, breathing hard, the knife still in his hand. "You chose her over us, over the pack. Now you'll die for it." "Henry, stop!" Maggie emerged from the trees, flanked by Marcus and Thomas. Others followed, pack members loyal to Kaelen. "You're sick, poisoned. Let the doctor help." "Help?" Henry laughed, wild-eyed. "She's the reason we're dying. Her presence, her tests, her human contamination." "The contamination is silver," Lena interrupted, finding her voice. "From the old mines. It's in the water table, the soil, everything up here. I have samples. I can prove it." "Lies. Then let me run the tests." Maggie stepped forward, hands raised peacefully. "If she's lying, we'll know. But if she's right, Henry, if she's right and you kill her, you murder our only chance at survival." Henry's hand shook. The silver knife wavered. For a moment, Lena thought he might actually lower it. Then his eyes rolled back, and he collapsed. "The poisoning," Thomas said grimly. "It's reached his brain." Lena didn't hesitate. She ran to Kaelen, dropping to her knees beside him. The wound was horrific, deep, burned, and not healing. Silver smoke continued to rise from it like acid eating through flesh. "I need to get the silver out," she said, her doctor's training overriding panic. "It's killing him." "We can't touch silver," Marcus said helplessly. "It burns us even in human form." "Then I'll do it." Lena looked at Maggie. "I need tweezers, clean water, bandages. And someone needs to get the young wolf." She gestured to the still form nearby. "To the clinic. He needs IV fluids and chelation therapy." "What's chelation?" "A treatment that binds to heavy metals and removes them from the bloodstream. If the silver poisoning is recent, I might be able to reverse it. She turned back to Kaelen, whose face had gone gray with pain. But I need to focus on him first, please. Maggie didn't argue. Thomas, get Danny to the clinic. Marcus, find Ruth. She has medical supplies. Everyone else, secure Henry. When he wakes up, he answers to Alpha Law. They moved with military efficiency. Within minutes, Lena had makeshift supplies and space to work. This is going to hurt, she told Kaelen softly, his amber eyes focused on her face. Wouldn't be the first time you've hurt me? Despite everything, he smiled weakly. Remember, you said I was rigid and magnetic. I said you were a rigid, magnetic man. There's a difference. She positioned the tweezers. On 3, 1. She didn't wait for 3. The tweezers plunged into the wound, seeking the silver fragments. Kalen's entire body went rigid, a sound of agony tearing from his throat that was more wolf than human. I'm sorry, Lena whispered, working as quickly as she dared. The blade had broken apart on impact, leaving dozens of tiny fragments embedded in tissue. Each piece she extracted released a fresh curl of smoke and a fresh wave of pain. Tears streamed down her face, but her hands remained steady. Finally, she withdrew the last visible fragment. She flushed the wound with clean water, packed it with cloth torn from her shirt, and bound it tight. It's not healing, she said, panicking. Why isn't it healing? Silver disrupts our healing factor, Kaelen managed. Has to heal, like human wounds, slow. Then we treat it like a human wound. Maggie. Lena looked up at the older woman. I need to get him to the clinic. He needs antibiotics, proper bandaging, monitoring for infection. Can you help me move him? We'll carry him. Thomas had returned with 2 other men. Together, they constructed a makeshift stretcher from branches and jackets. The journey back to Oakhaven took 40 minutes that felt like hours. Kaelen drifted in and out of consciousness, his skin burning with fever. Lena walked beside the stretcher, one hand pressed to his chest, monitoring his heartbeat. Don't you dare die on me, she thought fiercely. Not when I just found you. The clinic had been transformed. Ruth had mobilized half the town. Clean linens appeared, equipment was sterilized, and someone had even set up an IV station. Lena immediately went to work. I need to check for internal bleeding, she explained, cutting away Kalen's ruined shirt. The blade went deep, if it nicked his liver or spleen. But the examination revealed what she'd hoped. The wound, while severe, had missed major organs. Kalen's supernatural physiology had protected him, even as the silver tried to kill him. She cleaned, stitched, and bandaged with hands that had performed hundreds of surgeries. This was what she knew. This was what she was good at. The accusations, the doubt, the malpractice suit, all of it faded away as she focused on saving the man she'd started to love. Love. The word should have terrified her. Instead, it felt like breathing. Is he going to make it? Ruth asked softly. Yes. Lena refused to consider alternatives. He's strong, and he's too stubborn to die. She set up an IV for fluids, administered antibiotics, and finally, hours after they'd arrived, allowed herself to collapse into a chair beside the exam table. Kalen's eyes opened slowly. Lena? I'm here. She took his hand, his very human, very warm hand. You're going to be okay. The wound is clean. No fragments left. Henry? Unconscious. The pack has him secured. Maggie says he'll face judgment when he wakes. She squeezed his fingers. Kaelen, you saved my life. Couldn't let you die. Not you. His voice was rough but steady. Found something worth protecting. Worth everything. The feeling's mutual, Lena leaned forward, pressing a kiss to his forehead. Rest now. I need to check on Danny. Danny, the young wolf, was in the next room, hooked up to an IV that dripped chelation drugs into his system. His color was better, breathing less labored. Lena checked his vitals, pleased with the improvement. Will he recover? Maggie stood in the doorway, watching with grandmotherly concern. If we caught it early enough, yes, but he'll need regular treatments for weeks, maybe months. Lena pulled up her data on the tablet. I need to test all pack members, identify who's been exposed, start immediate collation for those showing symptoms, and you need to quarantine the North Ridge, no hunting, no drinking from the streams. That's a third of our territory. It's also slowly killing you. Lena met her eyes. I'm sorry, but there's no way around it. The silver concentration is too high. Until we can remediate the contamination, which could take years, that area is off limits. Maggie sighed heavily. The pack won't like it. The pack is welcome to take it up with their alpha when he's back on his feet. Lena returned to her tablet, fingers flying over the screen. I'm also recommending genetic screening. Some individuals might carry protective mutations that make them more resistant to silver poisoning. If we can identify and understand those genes, we might be able to develop targeted therapies. You've thought this through. It's what I do. Lena looked up, surprised to find Maggie smiling. What? He chose well. You'll make a good alpha's mate. Heat flooded Lena's face. We haven't. You will. Maggie's smile turned knowing. The way he looks at you, the way you fought for him, that's not casual, child. That's the kind of bond that changes destinies. Before Lena could respond, shouts erupted from outside. She ran to the window. Half the town was gathering in the street, all looking toward the east where the sun was setting. The full moon was rising. Chapter 10. Transformation. We need to get Kaelen somewhere secure, Lena said urgently. If the transformation happens while he's injured, it will happen regardless. Kaelen appeared in the doorway, leaning heavily on the frame. He'd pulled on a clean shirt, though blood was already seeping through the bandages beneath. The moon calls, the wolf answers. Always. You can barely walk. Doesn't matter. He looked at her, and his eyes were already starting to glow. Lena, you need to leave the clinic. Go to Ruth's place. Lock the doors. Don't come out until dawn. What? No, if you're transforming while wounded. I'll be fine. The wolf is stronger than the man. He gripped the doorframe as a spasm of pain crossed his face. But the pack will be running tonight, all of us, and not all of them are stable. If they catch your scent, instinct might override reason. You're telling me your people might hunt me? I'm telling you the wolf doesn't always distinguish between threat and mate, especially during the first change after a near-death experience. His voice was strained. Please, trust me on this. Maggie appeared behind him. He's right, child. The full moon brings out our primal nature. We run, we hunt, we claim. You're unmated, unclaimed. She's mine. The words came out as a growl. Kaelen's spine arched, and Lena watched in horrified fascination as his bones began to shift beneath his skin. The transformation was slower than before, painful, fighting through the silver damage. Kaelen, go. He stumbled backward, barely maintaining human form. Now, before I can't. Lena ran. Ruth was waiting outside with her truck running. Get in, honey. We're bunkered down at my place tonight. But Kaelen will survive. He's the alpha. It's what they do. Ruth gunned the engine, speeding through streets that were rapidly emptying. But you're human in a town of wolves on the night their control is weakest. The sheriff's right. You need protection. They reached Ruth's house, a fortified Victorian with steel-reinforced doors and shutters that could seal every window. Inside, Lena found Pete, Thomas's wife Margaret, and a handful of others, the dormant wolves, those who never shifted. "We watch out for each other," Ruth explained, locking the door behind them. "The runners need to run. We ground the humanity they'll remember come morning." From outside, the howling began. It started with one voice, deep, commanding, unmistakably Kaelen. Then others joined. Maggie's soprano, Marcus's enthusiastic bark, dozens of voices rising in a chorus that was both beautiful and terrifying. The sound vibrated through Lena's bones, awakening something primal in her own ancestry. "They're magnificent," she whispered, peering through a crack in the shutters. Wolves poured into Main Street from every direction. She spotted Kaelen immediately, the massive black wolf, moving with predatory grace despite his wound. He lifted his head, amber eyes scanning the buildings, and Lena could have sworn he looked directly at her hiding spot. "I'm safe," she thought at him. "Run."